I'm going to tell you what you already know, that love is the most powerful force in the universe. It doesn't compel, yet we find it compelling. It doesn't command our attention. It's much more powerful than that. It attracts our attention. It doesn't force change. It brings change. And what we need is a little more love. Now, I'm going to date myself, but what the world needs now is love, sweet love, right? It's the only thing that there's just too little of. So how do we get it? Now, hey. This is where I'm going to fly into the face of conventional wisdom, and I'm going to do my best to give you a different source for love. So stick with me, because I think what you're going to find out is that you're going to end up agreeing with me. And what we look at from the Bible is all of a sudden it's going to pull our world together, and we're going to say, wow, now that makes sense. So I'm just going to go straight to the Bible right now, and I'm going to read a passage which I think best describes love than any other writing that I know of. Let's listen to these words. What is love? Okay. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels and have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, it doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it's not proud, it's not rude, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part, but when perfection comes, the imperfect disappears. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. Now we see but a poor reflection as in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. You know, one of the things, the first observations that we make when we read this passage is that love is supreme. It doesn't matter how well you can communicate. If you communicate excellently well, if you don't love, you have nothing to say. It doesn't matter how much you know, because if you don't have love, you don't know enough. It doesn't even matter if you have the ability to believe in yourself and you have this amazing power to move mountains and make things happen. If you don't have love, what you're doing doesn't matter. And even if you were to give all you have away, I mean, serve humanity to the point of dying, for you, it's an empty sacrifice. You know, when we look at all four of these examples, we try to make love about ourselves and what we do and how well we do it. And the reality is, it's not about us. It really isn't. See, these four qualities are all about me and what I can do. But it's not about me and what I can do. And that's where I'm going to fly into the face of conventional wisdom, because modern man has made love about himself. In fact, how many times have you heard, well, if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else? And I would say that's not totally true. I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask a question. We talk about low self-esteem all the time and the need for a person to be able to love themselves. The question I'm going to ask is this: what if low self-esteem is not the source of our trouble with love? What if it's the effect? It's the result. It's easy to confuse cause and effect. It's one of the most simple mistakes to be made. And it's made all the time. But what if a low self-esteem is not the cause of our problem with love? It's the result. And if it is the result, we need to talk. Okay, I read an article in the Atlantic, and this really made sense because this author, I thought, made a profound point. I'm gonna read a little bit. She remarked how self-esteem in the 90s was supposed to keep students from doing drugs and from having premarital sex. And the question she asked, did it work? Well, here's her opinion of it. Quote, efforts to combat teen pregnancy and drug abuse by building up self-esteem were a flop. And she's right. The stats prove it. She goes on to argue that all those participation awards and songs about specialness were particularly to blame for her generation being so self-absorbed. And she ends the article with an amazing statement, which is all about cause and effect. She says, quote, the old adage is that no one will love you until you love yourself. Perhaps it's more like you can't love yourself until others love you. Unquote. She nailed it. Low self-esteem is not the cause. It's the effect. So what do we do? How do we change this? The Bible has been teaching us this all along, and we've been flying into the face of the Bible because the Bible does not teach self-esteem as the source of love. Nowhere. You can't find it. It's not there. The Bible assumes self-esteem as normal, as something that we all do. And if you don't have it, something else is wrong. It's not your self-esteem that needs to be fixed. It's interesting. If you're driving out of town, say, going to do some shopping in the big city, whatever, and all of a sudden you have a blowout and you pull the car over, you're tempted to say, those cheap tires. Good night. I should have bought better tires. And then you put on the spare and you go into town, do what you need to do, and then you come back. But on your way back, you notice, oh, wow, there's a sharp metal object, some kind of debris from a trash truck or something that's out there on the road. And then all of a sudden you realize, yeah, you did feel a little thump before the blowout happened. They were so close together, you just assumed it was the same problem. But it wasn't the tire. It was the debris left in the road. Now, I hope you see the connection here, because quite honestly, if you're blaming the tire, you haven't nailed the problem. The problem is the debris in the road. And that's what needs to be fixed. The problem of self-esteem is not correcting what people think about themselves. You can do that all day long, and it's not going to work for you. The problem of self-esteem is you need people in your life that love you, because you're going to reflect what the significant people in your life tell you about yourself. And if you don't have healthy people around you, you're not going to have a healthy view of yourself. You know, there are two main events that people need to kind of sort through when they're dealing with their own self-esteem, or they're trying to help a friend deal with theirs. The first is trauma. Because if a teenager comes to you and says something like, "I hate my life," don't try to fix their thinking. "Oh, well, you don't need to think like that. You are so precious and you are so sweet, and you need to start thinking about yourself differently." That'd be like blaming the tire. You're going to cause more trouble when you do that, because they're going to find themselves not being able to fix their thinking problem, and now they're just going to have another source for a low self-esteem. No. When you hear a teenager or someone young say, "I hate my life," hear this. Someone significant in my life hates me, and I don't know what to do. Now, in the case of trauma, that's what's going on. Become the significant person in their life. Show them love and listen. Listen, because soon, if you do a good job listening, you will become a source of significance in their life, and they will begin to reflect how you feel about them, because they will find you as significant. That's how you deal with a low self-esteem. You don't tell people to change their thinking. You love them and you care. Now, you already know that. You already know that to be true. You can't. Love is not self-generated. It's received, and then it's passed on. That's how it works. Well, there's another event that we need to be aware of too, because the other event is if you have a desire that's been deferred. Maybe you have been loved, and maybe you just didn't want to receive it. Maybe there's something else that you wanted a whole lot more. This usually involves a relationship or something material. And so in the midst of this, you just, "Oh, I gotta have this or I'm going to die," kind of thing. It's usually associated with false expectations. You know, if Bobby would just like me, my life would be perfect. No, it wouldn't. You got some false expectations going on here. And so when Bobby doesn't like me, I hate myself. Now, in the case of deferred desires, you really need to help people think through them and to think through the logic of what they're believing and what they're swallowing. Okay? Because quite honestly, they may already have love in their life. They just don't want to receive that love. My parents love me, my siblings love me, my grandma and grandpa love me, but that's not the love I want right now. I want this person to love me. Okay, well and good. But if you believe that that person is going to make you happy and fulfill you and be your source of love, boy, you're going to have a rude awakening, because human love just isn't safe. Divine love is. But people fail us, and they fail us all the time. So, find a friend, think it through, sort it out. Do I have a desire that's deceitful? Now, in the case of material substances, like, for example, drugs, boy, if I can just shoot up, my life will be so much better. No, no, it won't. No, it won't. Oh, if I could just get that car, my life would be perfect. No, no, it won't. You have to find out what desire is being deferred and if that desire is deceitful. It's lying to you, and you need someone in your life to tell you the truth. Or, the problem could be a little mixture of both. You're not getting the love that you need, and so you turn to drugs or sex to try to find the love that you're looking for, and it's not there. And when you can't find it, you say things like, oh, I hate myself, or you realize those false expectations and you realize it was a lie, and then you say you hate yourself. Person needs to sort these things out. Remember this: self-esteem, as far as the Bible is concerned, is considered normal. It's what we all do. So, what am I saying? One, if you have good self-esteem, be thankful because you didn't generate it. It was given to you. Now pass it on and give it to someone else. And two, if you don't have good self-esteem, okay, then you need to realize it wasn't given to you. And that's trauma. It wasn't given to you, or it was offered and you didn't want it. You went after the shiny and the shallow and you came up short. Or a mixture of both of those things. Find a friend, sort it out, work it through. Because ultimately, love is from God. And that is a source that if we turn to, will satisfy. Because we have a God who loves us, who's paid for all of our sins, died on the cross, and yet we tell him we're not interested. That's going to be a source of love problems because he is love. So you don't want to do that. So what are some recommendations? What are some things that I think would be good for us to do? Well, here are some questions to ask. First of all, one, are you a river of life? I mean, I know that's a word picture and I know that's a metaphor, but boy, it's a great metaphor. Because a person that has great self-esteem is a river of life. They just love people and they love life. And if you are a river of life, it's because you're plugged into some kind of source, and it's a good source. It may be mom and dad. Hopefully, as you age, it'll become God itself. And that's a source you want to pass on to your kids. Are you a river of life? Or are you a drain on society? Which are you? Are you a river of life? Second question, be good to ask. Do you see your need to receive love first? And you need to be grateful for it. You know, we reject love all the time, and it's just not healthy. And in fact, in our relationship with God, we need to receive love from God every day. We need to have an active relationship with Jesus Christ because we love because he first loved us. And that's just something we have got to get nailed down in our head. God is love. And you can't tap him dry. We're going to talk about that next week. Why you need unconditional love in your life. Because the conditional part doesn't get you where you need to go. Okay? And then thirdly, do you see Christ's mission in your life? You know, one of the things that we all need, we need not only to be loved, we need to love. We need that. We need to find people to care for. We need to ask God, who are the people you put in my life to love? We need that. They need it too. But we need that. Why? Because God put that inside of us. It's part of the image. We care. We care. Now, you know these things to be true. You know it. Self-esteem is not the cause of the problem. It's the result of the problem. The answer is love. And where better to find love than to go straight to the source? For God is love.